Okay. Now we're back with my big face. Um, okay, so welcome everybody. This is the very first episode of Unfolding the Garden. So, um, so this is going to be a little bit different than my normal streams. Most of the time when I stream, I just kind of stream whenever I'm working. And as you guys, if you've been watching the stream for a while, you'll know I just got Unity open and I'm kind of working away on the game. Occasionally getting kind of angry and frustrated when I'm trying to debug stuff. So let's look at the agenda today. So we'll start off doing some intro, a bit of background inspiration, and then we're going to start looking at the game, kind of the builds from November 2012. So what is Unfolding the Garden? I decided to do we're going to do like a weekly stream. It's going to be every Saturday at this time, 1 p.m. Central. And the idea is, each episode will be like 90 minutes long, and we'll look at early builds of the game, and I'll talk about how they evolved over time. I'll talk about like what I was thinking at the time. So the idea is kind of tracing the evolution of ideas throughout the game. I started the game in November 2012, and it's been about 4.5 years now. And I think by the time I finish, it's going to be close to 5 years. And, I don't spend too much time looking back, but I think occasionally it's nice to kind of look back just to see how far you've come. So a lot of these builds I have not played since the time I made them. So this will be super interesting for me. I feel like there's still a lot of work left, but we're getting really close to finishing the game. We're definitely in the final stretch, and now would be sort of a good time for me personally to kind of look back on, the last 5 years. And then for those of you who are interested in game design, I think this would be a really interesting case study of, the journey of making an entire game. I don't think, as far as I can tell from my own research, I haven't seen anything quite as in-depth as this, so hopefully this would be interesting for you all. All right, so I'm just going to do a quick intro for those of you who are new, who don't know much about the game. So let's say I made a little slideshow yesterday. Who am I? I'm William Cheer, working on this game, Manifold Garden, and here are some screenshots from the game. So, bit of background about myself. I was actually, I went to school. I majored in physics and economics, and that's sort of when I started programming. I did started off just kind of doing HTML and CSS, which, yes, I understand, not a real programming language. And then from there, I got a job at a genetics lab doing data analysis using Perl. So I guess the first real programming language or just scripting language was Perl. Probably not the best one to start with. With that, I ended up, I applied for this like student summer exchange work program in Italy, and I went over to Italy and worked at the Istituto Nazionale di Fisica Nucleare, National Institute of Nuclear Physics. I was in this small town, Legnaro, just outside of Padua, which is really close to Venice. So this is, anyway, it's a linear accelerator lab, and the way it worked was like a lot of different science a lot of different physics research groups would book the accelerator for a week or so, and then they would come over and do their experiments, collect the data, and then go back home and analyze it. And I worked there for a summer helping out with the kind of maintenance team This was not, I was not anywhere close to this. I was just in a room with an office, but that did not make for as exciting of a photo opportunity. Like, I have no idea like what this thing does and or whose binder this is. We just like went in there one night and took some pictures. Yeah, they had a dorm. And Italy was awesome to work. Was an awesome place to work. My boss just told me take my time every day. And like 2-hour lunches, beer and wine on tap. It's fantastic. So around the same time, I'd kind of like started doing some stuff with this circus, kind of juggling, and picked up balloon animals on the side. Kind of ended up starting doing these installations as a student. It was kind of a fun project. But after college, I actually ended up working in advertising. This is not what it looked like at all. I thought it was going to be like this, but it was not. Anyway, I ended up making some of these. I was like in this department that was just sending emails back and forth to different agencies to like. So I worked for a super big agency here in Chicago. They have like 100 offices around the world. And my job was to email one office and tell them to send me PowerPoints to then send to another office. And I was trying to go into the creative department. So I started making these spec ads. Because, you know, I met with the recruiter and he was like, show me your book. And I was like, what's a book? You know, a portfolio of spec. So spec ads are like fake ads. So you're not making them for an actual client, but it's just to give them a sense of your design. So I made this. This is one of the ones I made. I was super proud of this because so Berlitz is a language learning school, and these are words in a different language with the actual English in it. So this is the actual. These are the actual words, the characters for Great Wall in Chinese, and I can let me get up there. Google Translate. Right, so you can see those are the Chinese characters, and the idea was like it would look unusual, but then when you look closer, you figure out you can actually read it, which I thought was like the process. You know, that's like what learning a language is like. Yeah, I mean they weren't, you know, they needed some work, but here's like fromage, and it says cheese, and this is really hard. It's supposed to be cricket. In Hindu, this one was a tough one. Also because I don't speak Hindu, I didn't know quite, or Hindi. Sorry, my bad. But yeah, it was kind of there. Not really. I took a lot of liberties with it. So anyway, I ended up. This is not quite related, but one of the things I learned at the agency is this 100 versions exercise. Basically, for every assignment you make, this one of the other designers learned it at school, which is for every assignment you make like 100 versions of it, and that's a really cool way of forcing you to not settle with kind of the first thing you make. Like it, even if you do end up going with the first thing at the end, it just you've really thought about it. So anyway, this is one of the other spec ads I did for a pad. I won't go into the story this time, but basically feminine hygiene is a really tough category. If you're going to advertising and you're a junior, like a lot of times when you're making spec ads, people will make ads for like Lamborghini beer and condoms, and one of the creative directors was like, don't make ads for those because it's easy to be funny, and a lot of that stuff kind of sells itself. Like if you're making an ad for Nike, just like put a picture of LeBron James, just do it and you're fine. But as a junior, you're not going to be working on those accounts, right? So as a junior, you're going to be working on CPG, consumer packaged goods, so stuff like soap, deodorant, shampoo, that stuff that really they're all the same, so that's why they need advertising. And feminine hygiene is like the hardest. Everybody knows it because you can't even talk about what the thing does. So anyway, did a lot of research. I talked to a lot of girls, a lot of women, and I was like, okay, for some reason, all of these feminine hygiene accounts were like trying to sell you a lifestyle. You know, there's this joke in feminine hygiene advertising, which is that this boy comes home with a box of tampons, and his mother's like, why do you have a box of tampons? And the boy goes, oh, because I want to go horseback riding. Because, you know, all the ads for feminine hygiene products have like women riding horses on the beach in white pants. So anyway, so the idea was like this thing would, you know, we had the outline and it would kind of trap the blood. You know, I had a bunch of, this was like a pool table. Didn't really work out that well. But anyway, the maze one actually ended up getting made. But it also ended my career in advertising. Like, people thought I went behind their back or something. Anyway, after 7 months, I left. And but when that ad came out, everybody was like, oh, it's the first feminine hygiene ad to show blood rather than the blue fluid. Historic moment. And the funny thing is, it was not intended to be that way, right? Like, this was the original idea, and the red dot is a period. It's like a pun. And the idea is, you know, you like goes in the middle. But then they were like, oh, but what if people hold it upside down? They'll think it leaked. So it got put in the middle, and this makes no sense as a maze. But anyway. So, and by the way, Sharlock, thank you for the subscription. Thank you for the resub. All right, so after that, I ended up working at doing interactive exhibits for science museums. I was working at a small studio in Toronto. So I made this, which was you had your shadow projected on a screen and you would play music with it. So, right, you can like, you had these hotspots and you would kind of touch these different things and it would play a sound. The way it worked was there was a camera on the other side and it was just kind of comparing color values. If it dropped below a certain darkness, then it would trigger. The hardest part about this was they had a giant window next to this, so the light was always changing, so you had to keep calibrating it. But it got me, so this is kind of where I got started with creative coding. I was using C++, open frameworks for this. And, you know, I was a little bummed out when I started working there because I'd been really gung-ho about advertising. I was kind of hoping to get another job at another agency and was unemployed for about 6-7 months and pretty unsuccessful there, and ended up here. But in the end, you know, looking back, I'm super grateful. It was a really good experience, and I'm surprised I got the job because I remember in the interview the guy was like, he's like, do you know about pointers? And I was like, yeah, it references the thing, but it's not the thing itself. And he's like, good enough. And so I got to spend the first 3 months. I worked there for about 6 months and basically spent the first 3 months like learning C++ and figuring stuff out. And they were like, when I look back now, having worked with people, having brought people on to help me with Manifold Garden, I'm like, wow, I can't believe they kept me on. So I suppose this was a game. I mean, there were no points. But I also had this other idea that was more interactive, which was that it would actually make your shadow a physics object. It would make it a collider. And then there were these spheres were actually attached to springs, and you could like pull them down with your shadow and it would change the pitch. But the problem was, for a lot of you can see this is like, oh, this is a grown woman, right? And she is just barely reaching the top. I mean, you guys see, you can move forward and back, but a lot of this stuff was intended for kids who were really short. So they actually had a bunch of, you know, those like pool noodles that kids can use. Anyway, but this got me interested in wanting to make something long form. Because the thing with museum exhibits is people have to be able to pick them up right away, and they play with it for like 5 minutes. So, you know, and I've been doing the balloon installations, and sort of after my time with the museum exhibit design studio, this stuff kind of finally started to take off. So I went around doing, going from commission to commission for about a year. It was like I'd get one, and at the time my rent was like $300, so I didn't need much to live off of, and it was like by the time money would run out from one commission, I'd get a phone call for another, and I kind of just went doing that for year to year, month to month, and I did it for about a year. This was at the Calgary Science Museum. So this is actually from the place where this exhibit went to. I guess they had seen my portfolio and was like, about a year later, they called me up and had me come and make a piece at the Science Center, which is pretty cool. This was at the Lawrence Arts Center in Kansas. And also, during this time, I got to design one of the art labels for Beck's Beer. They had like different artists representing different regions. Like this guy was New York, MIA was London, Miami, Chicago. And I think the reason why I got chosen is because like 99% of the artists are in New York. So they didn't know, they didn't have too much of a choice when it came to Chicago. But anyway, I around that time, so this was like late 2012, I'd started to get a little bit frustrated with the work. Like I felt like the work I'd taken as far as I could, and it's the what I was doing with this was it was in a way procedurally generated, right? Like I would make, you can see it's all made up of spheres and chains. So right, you have these spheres here, and the idea was these chains would kind of grow organically. There was a rule. It was like when you're twisting balloon, if you had a piece at the end that was too long, you would have to branch off. And I would just kind of teach. We'd have like 30 people working on it, and I would teach them how to make the spheres and teach them how to make the chains, and at the end we would just kind of connect it. So there were some ideas there, and you can see like this guy started off at first, and he wasn't very good, so it kind of caused off a lot of branching, but which I thought was really, really cool. So then a friend of mine, I didn't even play video games, but a friend of mine who I met from my time at the advertising agency, he was my neighbor at the time, and he really liked indie games. So he like told me about Braid, Flower, Journey, and he backed Indie Game the movie, so he like invited me over to his place to watch. And after, I was like, man, Jonathan Blow, he's so cool. I was like, this looks like a great medium. Because also, yeah, with the balloons, like I did it for about a year, and I felt like I did what I wanted artistically, and then I was getting a lot of calls for it, and people were like, oh, can you do, one just like this other piece, but here are the colors of our company, and can you like fit our logo in there? And it I started to feel like I was like IKEA. I had like it was like people buying a new kitchen, and I give them a little binder, and they like pick the model they want and the colors. And I was like, I don't really know if I want to become like this balloon artist forever. Plus, a lot of people were, the thing that was really frustrating for me with balloons was like it had grown a lot, right? I mean, if you look at, like, this was the very first piece I did. It's just a total mess, like even just the technique and the idea and the execution. But the problem with balloons is because no one's really like a balloon connoisseur, so it didn't matter whether you made a great balloon installation or a crappy balloon installation. People were just like, oh, cool, balloons. So the novelty of the medium sort of overshadowed the work itself. Games, you kind of have almost the opposite problems. Like if you make a game nobody cares, it has to really stand out. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, because then people, like, it's nice that people notice the details, but then you also get people also kind of like get really upset if you are missing some small feature. So anyway, this is The Graveyard by Tale of Tales, and this is this like 5-minute game of a woman walking a graveyard. And I was like, okay. I was like, wow, video games have changed a lot since my days of playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater on the N64. This looks like a cool medium. I can try making something in here. And I downloaded Steam. I was like, hey, how do I play computer games these days? And people were like, oh, you should download Steam. And I downloaded Steam, and I had Portal in my library, because when I was working at that museum exhibits studio, there were only like 4 of us, and this other guy really liked video games. And he was like, you should study video games because we're in interactive design. And I was like, nah. And I remember at that time, Portal 2 was about to come out, and Valve made Portal free. It was like if you downloaded Steam, you got Portal for free. And this guy that I worked with kept telling me to download Steam. So I was like, okay, I'll make an account. And I, didn't get around to playing it until a year later. So I played it, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll make a game. I was like, this is pretty straightforward. You pick a mechanic, you make 20 levels, and then like bada bing, bada boom, you got a game. I think it'll take about 3 months. So that was kind of what I was thinking at the time. Right, so I guess we'll now start. So that is kind of just the journey that led up to me wanting to make a video game. And I like looked at it, video game was more the kind of just a medium that made sense. Like I had looked at glass blowing and metalworking, and to the point where I was like looking into having like glass made in Italy, but then we were also like had to find a transportation company that could ship the glass. It was just this whole logistical nightmare, and that project fell through. And I was like, okay, I don't want to do physical stuff. And they also had to be super tiny, so it wasn't that interesting to me. And when I saw when I saw games, I was like, okay, I think there's programming, which I know how to do. There's design, which I've sort of done. 3D modeling, which I've also sort of done. And I think a video game is just combining all 3 of them. It's very wrong, but that is what was on my mind. So let's... And so now I just want to give you guys an overview of what Manifold Garden is. Again, for those of you, many of you have probably already seen this, but just for people who are new to the game. So this is actually from the development update video, but I thought I'd just talk about, do a quick intro. And just so you can see what the game looks like now. All right. So the spiel is, Manifold Garden is this game where you explore a universe with a different set of physical rules. It's a counterfactual physics game, right? It's like, what if physics was different? So you guys might remember that scene in Inception. They fold Paris in half and start walking up the wall. So you can do that, right? Like you go up to a wall and you can change gravity, and all the different gravities are linked to a color. So and you can only interact with stuff in the same color. So like red button in red gravity, you can only pick up the yellow box in yellow gravity, and you can use the yellow box to you can put it on a switch to open a door, right? So we're building a design language. So here I'm gonna talk about how a puzzle works in the game, just to give you guys an idea. So we know that, if I see a blue switch, I want to put a blue switch on it to open the door. Now, in this case, the blue switch is on the wall, right? So the blue switch is over here, and I want to get this box on top of this switch. Now, the problem is if I put it there and I let go, it slides down, right? So then the door closes. So what I can do is I can switch into the green gravity, pick up the green cube. Now, the green doesn't light up the blue switch, but if I put it next to it, when I switch into blue, then I can rest the blue box on top of the green box and keep it there. Eventually you find out that these cubes are fruit, they grow on trees, hence the garden from the name. You can open up doors, and then you go outside, and that's kind of where the game opens up. So there's a brief period at the beginning where you're indoors, and that's more just of a tutorial. So another really cool feature is that the world wraps around on itself, right? So if I just fell off this place, now I'm going to land back on exactly the same spot. So this is a 3 torus. Now, I am going to link to a GDC talk that goes more in depth into this stuff and like my approach to level design. I gave this talk at GDC in 2016 as part of the level design workshop. It's on the GDC channel. Manifold Garden, level design, and impossible geometry. Folks will link to it in the chat. Now, so you saw that I loop around, and a big part of the game is also that making sure all that the laws of physics are consistent across all objects. So when I drop this box off, it is also going to loop around, right? You can see it, right? That tiny speck there, that is the box looping back around. Oops, I think I must have missed that. Yeah, anyway. So, will players get any sense of progress? Yes. Yes, but that's kind of the meta game, so I'm not going to go into that too much yet. But that is just a brief intro of what Manifold Garden is and a sense of the gameplay. So let's go ahead and get started with the early builds of the game. So the very first version of the game I made in November 2012. I've been, playing with Unity a little bit before then. Like I downloaded it and tried to make Snake and failed. And so it was, the original inspiration was I wanted to make a game inspired by MC Escher, because I was like, oh, I love his work. His work is on all the math textbooks growing up. And, especially just after watching In the Game, the movie, and the way Jonathan Blow kind of talks about his approach to designing puzzles, and having played Portal, I thought, hey, an Escher-like mechanic would be really cool, right? Something that you can't do in real life. And I looked at a bunch of Escher works and then decided that Relativity, this print is called Relativity. I thought this would work well. Because I'd seen Inception and I thought that scene was super cool. And but like when they walk through that scene in Inception, you don't really see them get to use it anyway, right? Like he doesn't try to take something from one gravity and put another. They're just like he's just explaining stuff. So he's explaining the plot. But I thought a game, you have the systems and you can play with it. So, and this looked like the most straightforward one to do. So it was like you could change gravity and walk on different surfaces. And I thought, so the initial idea was just to kind of like make this into a game, which is why the game was called Relativity. And there are a lot of reasons for why I eventually changed the name of the game to Manifold Garden, but I'll go into more detail, and I've written a blog post about it. I actually realized Snake was super hard in Unity because I thought, it was like you can, like if I just had a grid of pixels, then I could make Snake. But you don't get that in Unity, right? So that was a very interesting, like I felt really dumb. I was like, man, I can't even make Snake in this thing. But I sort of realized eventually later that, it's because I was using the wrong tool. So anyway, Relativity. So let's switch into the Mac build. So by the way, this is kind of a really cool setup. I wrote, at the time, this was 2012, I had this MacBook Air from about 2010. And, eventually, about like 4 months in development, I ended up getting a PC. But yeah, so what we've got here is the MacBook Air connected to an Elgato device, mini display to HDMI, and then from the Elgato, it's USB'd into my desktop, so it comes in as a video feed. And then I can show that on the stream. It's actually really great, because originally I was like going to screen record the MacBook Air, but it was like the frame rate is awful, and I didn't want to talk over a pre-recorded video. It's so much nicer just to play it. And this way it lets me kind of keep the whole setup, and I can switch between showing you guys what's on my PC and what's on the Mac. So it works super well. Just one thing is that I will be looking at my MacBook Air while I'm playing, and the stuff that's shown on the screen is going to have a slight delay, like about 1 to 2 seconds, so the sound might be a bit off. All right, so let's switch to the Mac. All right, here we go. So you can see this is the Unity project folder. I did a 2D test, a coroutine test, development test, examples. But this is Relativity 01. And you can see here, this is Relativity game from December 1st, 2012. So the very first version of the game I wrote over Thanksgiving weekend, which is like in November. Let's see this. Thanksgiving 2012. What were the dates? Thursday, November 22nd. Yeah, so I wrote it, over the course of 4 days, Thursday to Sunday, that first build. All right. So, all right, let's take a look. Relativity game, December 1st, 2012. Okay, the giant Unity logo is more because of the resolution. That if it's not going through Elgato, it looks fine. Why 2 desktop folders? I was just organizing stuff. It's not important. Okay. So how exactly do I get money? There's a lot of commands. So I think there's hopefully some of the mods. You guys can help answer some of these questions. Right. So relativity. I think I don't know if I used the modeling software. I think these may have just been like Unity shapes. Let's hit play. Let's check it out. So the mechanic is quite different. This one. So first of all, immediately you're hit with all this text. How to play. You have the ability to rotate your environment in any direction and make any wall the floor and walk on different planes. Simply ST or arrow keys to move. To rotate forward, click and drag the mouse upwards. To rotate to the right, click and drag the mouse to the right. To rotate to the left, click and drag the mouse to the left. To rotate backwards, click and drag the mouse downwards. So in this one, I guess you're technically moving the player. I don't think I figured out how to rotate rigid body at the time. So I think what this was doing that's different is that it's the world that's rotating. So not the player. Right. In the current Manifold Garden, as you walk up to a wall, you're the one that's changing. The world stays the same orientation. In this one, it's the entire world that's shifting. Now, the way you do it, so like, let's take a look at. Oh wait, I'm using the wrong keyboard. So yeah, you can see the cursor. Let's look at this like random crate. I've been brutalism has been a big influence since the very beginning. You can see this concrete was from the work of Tadao Ando. He's got the concrete with these holes in it. He uses that a lot in his work. So I put that there. No idea what that is. Right. So the idea is I need to get to that little hologram thing up there. Right. So the way you rotate, like you get up here. There's the it says exit. I think this was some texture I found on like freetexture.com. Alright, so you got to face with this wall. So what happens is I got to click down and then drag up. and it rotates. So it can also rotate to the left, but it's like really hard to pull that off. And I keep, like, I don't know what I just did, because the problem was like you would, like, okay, so right now I like hold down and I drag up, right, and that causes this to rotate forward, but it doesn't lock my head rotation. So that means if I try to do one of the side rotations, like it'll rotate to the side, but then my camera will also look, and then you end up getting so instead of doing like a side turn, you end up turning to the side, but then you're also looking, and then it looks like a forward turn. So it's really bad. All right, but let's just solve. The other problem was you can see this cursor, right? Because you had to like hold down and drag up. Eventually your cursor keeps moving to the top, and then you don't have any more room. So you have to like bring it down and shake. Apologies in advance for all the motion sickness that I'm causing. So, and the reason why I had you rotating on the side was because I thought it looked cool to see the world rotate that way. Right, but also, you know, you did not need to get close to the wall, right? You could sort of just, you could kind of change the world whenever. And then I touch this little thing. You see that little camera, it shows the exit door opening. Remember, because I really, aside from Portal and the Graveyard, really the only games I had played were from the N64. And just, you had a lot of the third-person action platformers, like I guess Ocarina Time did it, where it's like you press a button and then the camera would zoom out and like go over to the door, and you'd then you see the door open and you're like, okay, I gotta go there. That seems to, like, Journey and Abzu. Journey did it, Abzu did it, but that's sort of really not a trend anymore. In general, I don't like it when games take the camera away from me. And so the exit door opened, and it says next level, and I think that's it. There was actually no next level. And I remember this was the game that I showed to this guy Kyle Bailey. So, you know, I was in Chicago at the time, and Jake Elliott, he's one of the programmer on Kentucky Route Zero, and Phil Tivotosky, he's the CEO of Young Horses. They made Octodad. They organized this thing called Chai Dev Date, which was like you would sign up and they would connect you to another game developer in Chicago, and you guys would meet up and like play test and check in and stuff. And I'll read the emails. I don't want to show it on the stream just because, you know, it's got email addresses. But I got a match with this guy Kyle, who works at a local game studio, Phosphor. I'll show you the email I submitted. They sent out this email November 27th, and it says, my text was, because you had to like write a bit about yourself, and mine was, I'm still starting out and just working on a couple of small games at the moment to get my feet wet. And Kyle's is like, I'm looking to give feedback to developers. I do not need any feedback. I'm a gameplay programmer that can readily give design feedback, other type of feedback required. Currently working on mobile games in Unreal Engine. He worked on Horn, Batman, Arkham City, Lockdown, Mortal Kombat 9, MK vs. DC Universe, Stranglehold. You guys remember Stranglehold? It was like Tony Hawk Pro Skater plus Max Payne. Based on a Hong Kong movie, and I end up, you know, so they connected us, and I wrote another email. I was like, hey Kyle, nice to meet you. I've actually progressed much further since I first signed up for Chai Dev Day and have an actual game in the middle of development now. So feedback would be very beneficial. This was November 27th, 2017. And so I showed him that version of the game. And I am, to be quite honest, I am surprised that he encouraged me to continue working on it. I think like I'm here 5 years later because of Kyle being like, this is quite good. You should work on it. It's like, what? So thank you, Kyle. And Kyle's been a huge supporter over the years. I check in with him like every 6 months, kind of with a big milestone, and he's like, okay, this is stuff that you need to focus on. I remember like I showed him like a build like about a year and a half after we first met, and he was like, one of his lines was I had added these like lines that lit up, and he was like, this is not something that my art director would make. So anyway, it's come a long way since I first showed that build to Kyle at a bar. I actually had like another build, but I'd forgotten it and just ended up showing him that one level, and he gave a lot of feedback. He was like, the feel is wrong. So I think this was the first. So now we'll look at this one. It's December 5th. This might be. Let me see this. Let me see when I met with Kyle. So we met up. Okay, yeah, no, we met up around on December 3rd. Yeah, Monday, 7:30 at Headquarters Arcade Bar. It was a barcade. First time at a barcade. So this would have been after meeting with Kyle. So let's see if I made any changes. No, Kyle's been fantastic. Kyle, I have a quote from Kyle on my wall. It says, "There's no way you don't got this." And I changed a bit of lighting. The font's a little different, going for that really bad sci-fi. Okay, yeah, I think so. This has some more levels, so it's still the same terrible. But I want to show you guys. Oh, I changed the wall is wood now. Very classy. So yeah, this idea here, you kind of go through. I want to find that hologram. And there's no sound in the game, by the way. This is build 2, yeah. This is December 5th, 2017. No, December 5th, 2012. So about a week, 2 after I started. Oh yeah, it's my desktop wallpaper, and this I believe has other builds, has other levels. So let's check out kind of what I was thinking. Level complete. Next level. This is on Unity 3. So some of you who've been working with Unity for a while, you might recognize that that really old UI. All right, so I had this other level right now, and I had was trying to follow the portal method of like teaching the player a little bit at a time. Okay, we've got that here. You cannot simply walk to it, right? So the idea was you had to, so I come to this platform. Oh, yeah, you just had to like rotate onto it. That's not super interesting, I guess. But it was realizing that you didn't have to be super close to the game, the wall. And again, we got that screen off to the side showing you that. Let's go into this. Next level. All right, before I continue, let me just make a quick tweet. I'll just kind of let people know where we're streaming and our viewers. those of you who are on Twitter, if you could, if you'd like to retweet it, that'd be greatly appreciated. All right, so back to development. Make more artsy. Well, it'll take a while. It's gonna be a while till we get there. So that's not gonna be a few episodes from now. All right, so level 3. So this is interesting. So here the technique is a double rotation in the air. So I've got, you can see this thing is, it's supposed to be over here. This little piece. Now, what we are going to do is, yeah, it's over there. So the idea was I had to rotate twice, because every time you rotate, it's 90 degrees. You gotta rotate 180, right? So the idea is you have to do like a 2 quick rotation. And so this is a little bit longer because there's gonna be a little bit of air. So it's gonna be like, and then you come over here and then you and you touch this little thing. In a way, this guy sort of made a comeback. Some of you who've been following development, you know the God Cube. You know this guy's worked its way back. I didn't quite realize that until I was looking at this like last night in preparation for this. Right. So so I had electricity. This looked really cool. I think this I got off the acid store. So this is pretty funny. Like, you died and it would keep your momentum. You died. Try again. Alright. So, right, and I never really made anything with Unity before, and I remember... Anyway, well, I'll keep kind of talking about it. It's but it's super funny for me to kind of, it's funny and interesting for me to look back at this stuff now. You know, I've gone through, I don't know how many versions. I've gone through 3, 4, 5. Now we're on to Unity 2017. The games, I've shown the game at like over 30 events. We've had over 1,000 people play test it. Yeah, 4.5 years. It's been quite the journey. It's funny to look at where it's at. So this is funny, right? It says press the button E to pull the lever, and then you had to click OK. Let me rotate this. All right, so. Yeah, the idea is you're sort of on the other side, and then there we go. We got that little door again. That again, this lever. And now you'll notice like all these puzzles, right? They're all in giant rooms. Like this was something that took a really long time for me to break out of. It's so easy to just you design a puzzle and just make a room that's a box, right? So actually breaking the box is something I've kind of continued to be very aware of, because it's just so easy to. I mean, a box is just the first thing you do, and it's interesting because. You know, I actually was sort of interested in Frank Lloyd Wright. I'd gone on a road trip with my dad through the U.S. and we visited a bunch of Frank Lloyd Wright buildings, went to Falling Water, and but it wasn't until sort of more recently, in learning more about the kind of his thinking behind his works, he also had this idea of wanting to break the box. I guess in architecture, it was also, you know, the box is sort of also the default thing you want to use. Alright, and then you walk on this wall. Yep, it's that desktop. I do love the wood. Love the wood texture. Alright, so again, this same mechanic, what was it? I was just quite surprised that I had this in the game at the time, because again, some of you who've been following development, you'll notice that this is still sort of a variation of this is in the game. So it's interesting to see how these ideas have evolved, right? But you know, the idea was I had to get this golden bowl through this little pipe, right? But you had to like be careful where you were turning it, because otherwise you'd end up in the electric field. Huzzah! Hello, game dev company. Oh, and I think there was jumping. Pretty sure this was just the default Unity first-person controller. So I'm not sure if there's a level after this. Yeah. So I don't think there's any more content. It just shows next level. This was December 5th, 2012. I'd started it November 22nd. So really it's like the second week, right? All right, so December 9th, 2012. Now we'll kind of take a look at, now I won't play through all of them. I think the puzzles are going to be pretty much the same. Oh, it's on the build. Like it says when the build was created, right? And then I remember I started it in November. I started it during Thanksgiving weekend of 2012, which was November 22nd. That was a Thursday. Like I'd love to have all these builds in the game. Like it'd be cool if in the release version you could go back, but the thing is it's totally different code base, totally different files. Relativity. So I think mostly what's interesting here is the intro. Okay, so this is something that was added, right? So it was when you press down, it would freeze your head. So I'm moving my mouse around, it's no longer moving. And then you can choose here, you had to drag, but you could choose which direction you wanted to rotate. Right? So this was already much better. Like it froze your head so you could rotate to the side. Now the content is still the same. But it was like, why would you ever rotate backwards? You know? Right, but the thing, because I thought what was cool was you could then, like, I thought that was a cool thing to look at. And I also made it a lot faster. No, I think the content is going to be the same. Right, so let's quit that. Now, okay, let's skip ahead. Relativity. Game, December 2012, 2:13 a.m. Working late that night. Some of the hardcore fans still think that these are the best versions. Oh yeah, and I had the name. I've also kept a lot of the screenshots, so don't delete anything ever. I've not used this computer in years. I pulled it out. I had to actually get a friend gave me another Chicago indie gave me a MacBook Air charger, the Gen 1 MagSafe. I didn't even have a charger for it anymore. Play. Now, some of this stuff later is going to get a little cringy. I tried a story. How to rotate. This looks like it's the same version. Yeah, you know, let's quit this one. So, okay, yeah, this would be the date. Normally, I would... Like, I'd have the ones on the date are a little later. Does this do anything different? I'll show you guys. Put the old builds up for download. I'll do that once the game is done. Oh yeah, so here's interesting, right? So this, instead of that, it showed you which surface. So this is like, you're gonna be that surface in front. So this is supposed to be a projection of a cube. The forward surface, you're supposed to be right off to the side. And so that was an alternative. It's a way of communicating to people. Linux, maybe. Yeah, I haven't looked into it, but yes. Let's see. It's not a priority at the moment. Yeah, I will. We'll talk about kind of the name change when we get there. All right, so let's look at this one. I checked out this. I think this one doesn't quite work, so might be music here. All right, so this is December 25th. So I guess this is Christmas, right? Oops. Let me see here. Hold on. So yeah, Christmas 2012. Oh yeah, we can get some music in there. Alright, I don't know what I was thinking when I wrote this, but I do sort of. So, I thought, we do this, I missed the text actually. Hold on. There's a story where you're like an architect and your wife is in a coma and you gotta go in and save her. Alright, well, let's just read that out loud, as cringy as it is. It had been 3 years since the accident, and still there have been no signs of brain activity. All the tests had been exhausted, and the last doctor had quit. But he still had hope. He knew she was in there. He just needed to get to her. Man, I'm so glad that is no longer in the game. Oh, so it like had a fixed time, so it just... But story is really overpowered, man. I was checking out this yesterday, and I was like, man, what happened? So, it changed controls to this, a little bit more graphic. So yeah, I made this. You rotate forward and it would show you this cube rotating. So again, right, it's the world rotating. The player stays the same. But I did it for like rotate backwards, rotate right, walk through all of them. You have to click on each. What? Oh, and I made it so you could there was like a bit of air control. Alright, we're gonna play through it for the story. So bad. Alright, I'm going to turn off the music. I think that might have been copyright music. We are. It will be a VOD. No, He placed all his energy into developing the machine, to finding a pathway between digital and neuro. After countless failures, he had finally succeeded, but it's not infallible. there's the possibility that he could never return. That is a risk that he's willing to take. God, it's so bad. God, who wrote this terrible stuff? We're just cheating now. Playing for the story. Oh right, I gotta go to the exit. So I guess the idea was like, this was inside your wife's brain or something. You built a machine to go into her brain to wake her up from a coma. Oh yeah, and it had to transition, so it wasn't like next game. By replicating synapse activities with binary equivalents, a temporary connection is created between the digital interface and the neural network of this test subject, allowing the subject's subconscious to be uncovered and repaired. Nature, December 2011. Just playing for the story. So yeah, see that, like, that little thing helps a lot already. With each passing minute, he could feel his former self being left behind. His worldly possessions, his desires, ambitions are all but a distant memory now. He could feel her getting closer. He knew she was there. He knew she was here. He just had to find her. Yeah. I think I may have been, like, kind of inspired by Braid. Oh yeah, this is the same thing. So sure, I'm just kind of playing. I gotta play these same levels because there was no skip button back in the day. Skip buttons hadn't been invented at the time. Actually, honestly, the ability to skip a puzzle, skip a level, that took me way too long to add. Like, I used to just have to play through the entire game to test it. It was such a pain. Then he comes back alive. He comes back in episode 3. Actually, he didn't really die. He just faked his death. Oh yeah, I was like, oh yeah, speedrunners could just fall everywhere. Yeah, so in this one, see, you can just really fall everywhere, and that was one of the things that I, got rid of. Oh, I spoiled it. Oh wait, there was no story. Oh man, okay, so see, this was like, I'm not gonna do this because this got, this is where you'll see a lot of the changes as you continue. I'll talk about how sort of a lot of the stuff that's here, like, changed over time because it was just such a huge pain. Like, it was so easy to lose track. I'm going through it now because I went through it last night, but it's so easy to get lost. Like, I'm not, like, is this the right direction? Like, this is, like, way too long, way too confusing. way too punishing. Come on. All right. This does not look like Naissance. Come on, Naissance is amazing. This looks like a very, very bad version of Portal. And this is what it is. This is a bad Portal clone. Oh, here's cool. This is a cool thing. You know, the idea was like you came into her head, and I guess there was like that's like a, I don't know, what do you call it? A glitch screen? And you had a computer you had to use. The computer was blue screened. I don't even think, look at that texture. It's like a tiled blue screen. Let me get some more water. This keyboard just has numbers. No way. So I think you have to like press E and then it would disappear. So this is interesting. This is an interesting idea. So with the idea was you had to like walk across this floating platform. And because the idea was you had to like, as you're walking through it, you would have to like rotate like that, right? Like you'd have to kind of walk forward, rotate, and then like keep and like slowly get your way through. What I did not realize was like, or I could just, oops, sorry, I got my mouse got in the way. It's like, you could do that, or you could just like fall straight down. No, here's this one. This one is, you could also, you were fast enough that you could just like run across it. Hey, Olakana. Stanley Parable. Oh, yeah, this is funny. But you can see here, like, so, you know, I was kind of try to attempt like a city. Right. In a lot of ways, like you'll see some of the later levels in the final game has a level sort of like this. Like there's like, this is my attempt at building like a city, like a mindscape, you know? Like the idea is you sort of like walk on this side. Well, there's no collider apparently. And then there's like a subway stop, and there was like this underground world that you could explore. Anyway, I think this is it. I couldn't find, there's like a little room here, but again, it's missing a bunch of colliders everywhere. Come on. Fit in there. Oh yeah, you see, this was before I used Pro Builder. So many Z fighting problems. Yeah, I don't think this thing goes anywhere. Ah, I had a... Yeah, I don't think this is it. Alright, so let me, I don't think this one might be kind of different. Let's take a look at this. And there's one in January and one in February. We'll just look at the beginning. Oh, this had some other music. Right. This is music by a friend. All right, so now I just put everything on one screen. And I don't know if you guys noticed that. Let me start that up again. I'm not going to read it out loud this time. Come on. Go to the next one. Yeah, so see, it just, I put everything in one screen. Nobody liked to click through 5 of them. Alright, so... yeah, I mean, this is sort of pretty much it. Let's, Alright, so let's look at this one from... oh yeah, see, and then afterwards, because notice that the date jumps around, right, when you order them, so I think eventually I started to do... so, because this is like month, date, year, and then January would come after. This is dated wrong. It's January 5th, 2013, you can see here, but afterwards I started doing year, month, date. Let's look at a January 5th build. So we are in 2013 now. January 5th, 2013. Okay, thanks everyone for being here and hanging out. This is hope this is enjoyable and interesting. Let me see. Alright. I got rid of the story. Yeah. Beginning of January, I was like, yeah, not gonna do that. Alright. Let me see if there's other levels. So yeah, that was it. This level did not let you get back. I'm not sure. I think I just thought the story was not very good. Alright. February. So let's skip ahead now. I guess the next build is... so this Relativity Mac is February 21st. Let's look at this February 11th one. I would love to have an exhibit that just has these different builds, on different computers when you play through them. Let's see. I imagine most of the changes would be super early. Let's see if this has... oh, art? Oh, cool. This is new. I see door. Oh yeah, okay. This is new. I've not been here in a long time. It's actually really hard to have the build, right? Because it's all different code. So here's an elevator. No, eventually we decided not to do that. Oh man, I missed the door and now it's closed. Now it brings me back down. That door's open. We'll talk about it. So here, this is kind of cool. The idea is you walk into it. Oh, so you have to collect these little things. And now I'm supposed to wait for the, wait for that to line up. Oh! So, this is an interesting thing. I showed it to... I always thought death in games was bad, right? Death is a failure state. And I showed it to... I remember I showed a later version of the game to the young horses. Like, in March 2013, they played it. And one of the feedback, and Kevin Zune, he's the creative director of the Young Horses, and he said, you know, if I fail this, just kill me, right? Because it's, so what he meant was you want to have a fast reset state, because in this case, this messes up, and I gotta go all the way back to the beginning, right? Like, which is just not fun. So, like, you have to kind of time it like this, and then let me see here. Or I think there was also a way you could do this and land down like that. So you could fake. Let's just go to the last one. Oh wait, you gotta. I see, right? You have to do them in order because they collect the. You have to do it in order because it collects. It opens the next door, which you don't actually see. And again, like I'm forgetting which one is the one I'm supposed to go to. Oh right, this one. Sorry if this is causing motion sickness for anyone. So the problem was like you get caught on the side. God. This game sucks. This game is the worst. Level complete. Oh yeah. Okay. This is like a little tunnel you gotta go through. You died. Try again. Oh, right, I had to rotate. Ah, and go down this pathway. Oh, yeah, yeah. See this? This is like this door would open and you jump down and it would come out to the other side. And you'd go like this, in. And, aha, there we go. There's that familiar exit door. And this game breaks now. But what is interesting is I want to take a look at. I saw something that caught my eye, which is it said art room. What is art room? Oh yeah, my friend Lane. My friend Lane, he was the guy at the ad agency who told me about indie games and got me started, and he kind of helped me make some of this stuff at first. And the idea, I think we were talking about like this thing was it'd be like you were a baby and you could crawl different things. And I had a room where you could look at this. He had designed it on paper, and then he had designed a 2D version, and then I made it 3D, and and that was it. Bye bye. Alright, let's look at this February 21st version, and then we will... Wow, it's been... You know what? It's been almost 90 minutes. So... Do I want to... No, I want to deny. Incoming network connection. What is this talking about? See if the arrow changed. I'm gonna guess the beginning is all the same. Yeah. All right, so some of the levels you can't quit out. So let me, I just want to jump to level 9. Just to see if they exist. Oh, yeah, here we go. So this was a fun one. This was, the idea was like you'd fall down and you had to kind of like step on the, you had to like keep moving and get this. Yeah, and if you messed up, you just whole thing ended. Did I have a level 10? There's no level 10. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so you're just supposed to like kind of keep walking. So bad. Oh, you can see the little counter at the top. It counted how many. I don't even know how what's the total number here. I just keep. I don't think there's anything worth paying attention to here. I think that's it. Are there any more? Oh, there's one more. Let me just see. I just want to get it to see what happens. Level complete. We're looking at early builds of Manifold Garden. No, I don't think this went anywhere. So that is it. Alright guys, so I think that is a good spot to wrap up this first episode for today. Let's come back to our show our display scene. So yeah, that is the first episode of Unfolding the Garden. Saturdays, 1 p.m. Central, 1800 hour UTC. So it's been about 90 minutes. Yeah, and we looked at the kind of the earliest builds of the game written on this MacBook Air from 2010. So we went from December 1st all the way up to February 21st, so about 3 months. So that was kind of really my first attempt at making a game, and you can see it's all if I switch back to the Elgato view, you can see it's in the Relativity 2 folder. So I guess I had kind of started making, I made like Relativity 1. This was December 1st, and then I worked on December 4th, and then I switched to Relativity 2, and we got to Relativity 3 a little bit later. So we made it to Relativity 2 and looked at the builds there. So, you know, kind of about 3 months into making something, I had like 9 levels or so. I don't know exactly how many levels. I was kind of thinking we would just sort of do this every week and, you know, take as long as is needed. The actual Manifold Garden, this version, the current version, we're getting really close to launching, but there's still a lot of work left. So I don't quite know. I don't have a release date yet. My hope is that by the time, you know, we'll do Unfolding the Garden every week, and by the time we kind of catch up to the present, I will be getting ready to ship the game. So hopefully, you know, I'd like to time it such that as we wrap up this series, Unfolding the Garden, the game comes out. And so if you've been following it, then you can, you know, play the final game and see for yourself and kind of have an understanding of the journey that the game went on before it got to you, right? So it's sort of like, it's like the finale, the season finale is the interactive, is the game itself, and you get to play it. So yeah, next week we will look at the game in March 2013, and that was a very pivotal moment. So, you know, when I started this, I was still primarily an installation artist, right? I was like starting to stop doing the balloon installations, but that was kind of still what I was known for. I wanted to get away from that, and I had a few months ago I'd gotten this art residency in Shanghai. So they have art residencies. I'm starting to see some in the game development world with programs like Stugan in Sweden. Basically, an art residency, how it works is they're usually at art centers, and the idea is you go there for a certain length of time. The average is about 3 to 6 months, but I've seen some as short as a week and some as long as 2 years. And the idea is sort of like you kind of forget about the things in your daily life and go there and just focus on your art. Some of them have food provided, some of them give you a stipend. I've done about 5 or 6 of them over the years, some in Chicago, one in Wisconsin that was on a farm. And I've gotten this one in Shanghai, and it was about 6 months. And I got in based on my installation work. And that was going to start in April 2013. So I ended up having, and originally I was going to go there and do installation work. I ended up working on Manifold Garden, but this next month in the timeline, March 2013, is very important because I just never deleted anything, which is why I still have these iterations. So in March 2013, I met with this guy, Kyle, and we kind of kept in touch, and he told me about a lot of the game developer events in Chicago. And I went to them, and they had this thing called Industry Night. So the last Tuesday of every month, a bunch of Chicago game developers will meet up at a bar and hang out and talk. And I started going to some of these, and I met, and I also went to, and they do a Christmas party every year. And I remember I went and I met Phil Tibitowski from the Young Horses. And I had seen Octodad around, right? They were making Octodad. It hadn't come out yet, but it was sort of the kind of this big game in the Chicago indie scene. And then they were on the cover of the Red Eye, which is this kind of this daily journal, one of the ones that's free and people read it on the subway. I saw them on the cover of that. So it was one of the few games I'd actually known about before I started working on this. I was like, hey man, I'm working on this game. Like, can I come by your office and show the game to you? And he's like, sure. And at the time I was like, man, they've been working on this Octodad game for 2 years. Like, what's taking them so long? They're noobs. And I was like, oh man, I got this game. It's like the next Portal. I'm gonna come to their office and show it to them, and they're all gonna be like, oh my god, you're a genius. Please teach us. Spoiler, that was not what happened at all. And I was super excited because I actually found the build that I showed them, and it was in many ways this very devastating experience. Like, they were kind of cool. They had this cool setup. I guess this was before Octodad came out, and a bunch of them were living in 2 apartments. Like, they just got 2 apartments in a building across from each other, and like 7 dudes were living in there, and their living room was like this office. And I went, and a whole bunch of them played it. And Kevin Zune, you kind of hear Zune's name a lot. So he's the creative director over there, and he played and gave a lot of they were very encouraging, but were also very honest in their feedback. And I would love to have Zune come down and play that first build he played, and talk about, because he sort of played the game. I remember, he played the game again at PAX Season. He sort of played on and off since. And I'm going to send him the latest build when I get that ready. So next week we're going to start sending it out to beta testers again. But I still have the build that he first played in March 2012, and it'd be cool to have him come on the stream and play through that. I think it'd be really fascinating to revisit. Anyway, they did not all of a sudden, proclaim me a genius. But that was a very, very eye-opening experience. I remember walking away kind of super bummed out but it taught me the importance of playtesting at a really early stage, and that's something I've just like done like religiously, and yeah, it made me realize how much I didn't know, and I think super grateful for that meeting, because since then it's like every step of the way I consult with other game developers, ask about their experience. Like I sort of after I kind of went in and I was like, oh man, I'm such a brilliant game designer, and I walked away and I was like, actually I do not know anything, and my approach afterwards was like I would talk to everybody and learn from them, and I think that really helped because I just I just didn't have an ego anymore. So I know a lot of devs with early builds are like, oh, I don't want to show it to you, or something, and I was like, I don't care, just be honest, tell me all the problems and like what I can fix, and I think that's an important attitude, and you don't sometimes I see devs, they'll show you a game and you give them feedback and then they get really defensive, and then as the person giving feedback you're like, okay, well next time I'm just not going to say anything, right? And then that's sort of, they're missing out on a very valuable resource, because honest feedback is really the best thing you can ask for as a game dev. So anyway, so next episode we'll take a look at that. Should be fun. I think that'll probably it's quite different. So we'll look at that and what happened afterwards. So yeah, I'll stick around for a bit. I don't know if you guys have any questions. If you posted it earlier, I might have missed it, so feel free to post again. We'll stick around for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then I am going to take a break, get some food, and return with a development stream. And yes, the next episode will be next Saturday, same time, and this will also be archived to YouTube. It's true. A lot of people don't know how to formulate critique, but if somebody is, you can kind of get the sense of it, right? And you watch them, and if somebody is like, if they're like, man, it's not, sometimes the stuff they complain about is not always the thing that's wrong. Like sometimes it's really the game feel that's making it tedious. They are working on another game, but I cannot talk about it. They have not revealed it. What if you don't understand a single thing about coding? Well, you start learning, right? I mean, every coder started somewhere. You just start a project and start. I think the easiest way to learn, or not the easiest way, but I think the best way is to have a small project and work on that, and that'll kind of motivate you to learn. Because it's easy to like have someone explain how something works in code, but until you like are in that position, you won't quite understand that concept. So any other questions, or is there anything you guys would like to see on the stream? Like I think the format that we've done, just playing through old builds and kind of talking about it, and alongside sort of like bit of what was going on in my life at the time, because I think that does affect things as well. It's part of the story. Interested in watching when I read the dev blogs about shader struggles. Jay Bloodthorn. Yeah, I'll go more into that once we start playing with that. That doesn't really kick off until like March, April 2014. So about a year after this point. So it'll be a few episodes before we get to the real juicy shader stuff, but yeah. Do I like Studio Ghibli's work? Yes, big fan. All right, well, it doesn't seem like there are any more questions. You know, if you have suggestions, you can, you know, tweet at me. My handle is just William Cheer. Since this is going to be a YouTube archive, some people might be watching on YouTube. You can also just post comments on the YouTube channel. And of course, we have a Manifold Garden. Oops, I keep using the... So I've got 2 desks and 2 mice on my desk, and two keyboards and 2 mice, and one is for the Mac, and I keep using those. So yeah, we have a Steam store page for Manifold Garden, so you can add that to add the game to your wish list. It's not available yet. We've just got a mailing list. The Manifold Garden page, manifold.garden or manifoldgarden.com. And if you scroll down, you know, you can sign up for the mailing list. I'm on the twitter.com/William Cheer. We also have Manifold Garden Instagram, so instagram.com/Manifold Garden. Super happy with the layout. You know, we've got some gameplay videos. Some albums. And what else? What else do we have? Yeah, and of course, we have a Facebook page as well, facebook.com/Manifold Garden. Post a lot of updates. And yeah, I'm on Twitch, twitch.tv/William Cheer. And finally, the devlog. It's on Tick Forums. If you go there, we've got, you know, I started keeping it in November 2013. So it doesn't start with the very beginning, but kind of early enough. I did it in the 1-year development anniversary. And yeah, we kind of kept it going for 3.5 years now. Cool. And Bruce, thanks for the links. Okay, so those are all the links to check out more information. And now I am going to sign off and take a break, and we'll be back. I'll be back a little bit later today, get some food, rest, and we will. And as for Unfolding the Garden, episode 2 will be next week. Right. I will see you all later. Bye-bye.